The thing that makes me laugh, or the thing that made me laugh while we were, putting the materials together for this Coffee with MC with you, your bio on the One Harbor site, the last sentence of it. I don't know if you've seen this yet, but it's like, what are hobbies? Like Andrew's hobbies include hunting, fishing, roasting coffee, and chasing away boys who flirt with his daughters. I died. It was so funny.
That was back when I could do it.
Right. You have 4 daughters, is that right?
Yeah, I have 4 daughters, yes.
Oh my word.
And what's the age range of your girls?
Sarah is the oldest, she's 33. Rachel is the youngest, and she's 23.
Okay.
Almost 23. So
got it.
That's the range of all the girls. And Hannah is, of course, 30, and Rebecca is 25, almost 26.
Okay. That's awesome. That's awesome.
All grown up and out the house, basically.
And we're going to touch on Hannah specifically in a second. But before we roll into the fact that you're a celebrity, we would love to introduce who we have here on Coffee with MC.
That's exactly right. And guys, I want to start out by saying, as all of you know, this has been a really tough week for a lot of families here on the Crystal Coast, and just that our hearts really go out to the folks who have been impacted by this terrible tragedy last weekend. So anyway, that's just something that's been on all of our hearts, and just wanted to start by mentioning that. But today we have Andrew Midgett with us, and Andrew is here with us kind of to talk about several different things, which are awesome. But guys, he is both a pilot. He's a pilot for the state of North Carolina. He's in the Morehead City port. So he helps to guide boats in and out as they come to the port, which is so cool. And that's something that is a tradition that runs in his family that we're really excited to talk about. And then he also is a marketplace pastor at One Harbor Church. And what we mean by that is that he's a pastor. He is not somebody that's not his job, but that is something that he is, that's a really important part of who he is, and a part of how he relates to folks in our community. So really excited, Andrew, to have you here. Thank you
very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and happy Friday.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think we want to start out with explaining this.
Yes. Okay, you got to show them the cover of what this is. This is one of our favorite magazines, Magnolia, and that's Andrew writing the pages of Magnolia Magazine.
Yes. Will you explain to us how that came to be?
Yeah, the easiest way to explain it is my daughter Hannah works for Magnolia. She is the production manager for the magazine, and so they do interviews like mine every quarter. They'll have some kind of interview in the magazine. And so Hannah calls me on the phone and says, "Dad, I want you to consider doing an interview with Magnolia." And I said, "Absolutely not. I am not interested. I don't want to do that." And so we kind of argued for a little while. And finally she said, "Dad, will you just humor me? We won't use your interview. It's not going to be used, but just humor me. We need some people to look at." And so I said, "Okay, Hannah, because it's you, I will do this." And so I guess it's about 6 weeks later, I get a phone call and I do the interview with the young lady. And she doesn't work for Magnolia, but she does their interviewing for the people that they use in their magazine. And so anyway, after about an hour of talking to her on the phone, she said, "Well, I guess that's about it, Mr. Midgett, but I just want to say that's the greatest interview I've ever done in my life." And I just went, "Oh no, I'm stuck." I mean, I am stuck. And so,
I love that.
About it. I mean, they said, "Get here, get your picture taken, you're in the magazine." And so anyway, that's kind of how it happened.
That's such a cool story.
By honoring my daughter's request.
That's as you should have, So like the meat of the interview, just as you said, is really about your job and this tradition that runs in your family. So what can you tell us about that?
Well, I mean, I was trained by my father. And so my father was a pilot. He trained me and a bunch of other guys to do that kind of work. And so, but I mean, my training really started when I was a kid, being on boats during the summer and just doing the kind of stuff that you would do in the Crystal Coast area, as you're growing up. And so, my love for handling boats started when I was, 12, 13 years old. And so my job of being a pilot, my dad was here at the time, and he was working as a pilot. And so he trained me. I started when I was about 21, and I finally started working here when I was 26.
Okay.
And so I had like a 5-year apprenticeship. And so it's kind of one of those things where it's passed on from father to son in a lot of the associations, especially in small ones like this, which there's only 2 or 3 men who work in Morehead City. So it's kind of a small family kind of thing.
That's right. And I know I do want to say that your colleagues in that, the Baileys, who I know, I love that you guys are related, but the Baileys are some of my very, very favorite people.
Yes.
So, love that.
Yes.
Y'all have a
Yeah, Bill is my first cousin. And so, I have just a great love for him and a great respect for him. He's a tremendous pilot, and I'll spend more time with Bill than I do with anybody. I'm around him all the time. And so, he's just a very special person in my heart anyway.
Absolutely. And having Travis back around more now too.
Yeah. And Travis is living here full time now. And so, that's really good.
Well, y'all, it's such an interesting, I'm not from the coast. And so, I truly, when I first met Paige, when I moved here and she referenced that Travis was a pilot, I absolutely thought that he was flying planes. For sure. It took me a while to understand that was even a thing, that you guys go out there and meet these giant ships and then guide them back into safety, into the safety of the port, which is such a cool thing. I think for those of us who aren't a part of these maritime traditions, you wouldn't even understand that's a part of what has to happen. Of course it has to happen, but such a cool thing, such an awesome part of the heritage of the area and of your family's heritage. So really,
and a lot of people will make that same mistake, and they'll say, "Oh, so you fly planes?" I said, "No, you don't want me to fly a plane."
Right. That's
you
exactly
don't want me doing that. I can't do that one.
That's right. That's right.
So going off of that, one more question about this feature. So the title of it is Finding Your Footing, and a little excerpt of it toward the end. I know you know what it is, but I'm just going to read it really quick. You say, "Now after 37 years of this work, my feet will tell me when I've made a turn too early or too late. It's a feeling I can't exactly describe, but my feet get me back to where I need to be. In that, you could say I've also learned how to trust myself." That was my favorite part. All of it was great, but that was something that stuck with me. What is one, it can be this or something else. What's one life lesson that you've learned from being a harbor pilot?
Well, I've had to learn a lot of things in the job, because you have to learn how to lead. You have to learn how to speak with authority. You have to, because you're the voice on the ship. When you get up on the ship, they look at me to do my job, and they look at me to get them safely from point A to point B. And so it is one of those things where you have to learn how to lead and speak with authority on a ship, because when things go bad, they're looking at me to get them out of trouble. And so I've had to learn how to do that. You don't just get up there and think that you're the man when you start, because you're young and you don't really understand the whole game anyway. But over time, I think that's one thing that I've learned how to lead, where maybe my natural inclination is not to lead. I'm more of a support person who will come alongside of people and support them. I'm not naturally a leader, but I have learned how to be one. And so that's something that I've really, when I get on a ship, I understand my position, and they understand my position, and they feed off of my confidence to speak to them and to do the job. And so that's probably the biggest thing that I've learned over 37 years of doing this job.
That's big.
That's really cool. That's cool. And so you're a leader in your work setting, and then you're also a leader in your church. And so,
yes.
I think one of the things that we wanted to wrap up by touching on with you is, everybody handles tragedy differently. And, we can't begin to imagine what different folks are feeling and after this tragedy that occurred last weekend. But, is there any advice that you have that you've learned from your role in helping people, right? So you talked about coming alongside people, which I understand is a lot of what you do in your role in the church. And so any advice or thoughts that you have that help people through the grieving process?
I would think that probably, what happened last Sunday, it didn't just affect 2 or 3 people. It has almost been like a bomb in this community. A lot of people are grieving what happened because they were known families, young kids. It's really one of those things that just kind of was not just one little family problem. It was big. It's a big, accident. And so for sure, everybody's grieving. A lot of people are just really taking it to heart. I think that the biggest thing that you could do as a person, of faith is to look at these individuals and just point them to who God is. In 2 Corinthians 1, Paul says that Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, who is the Father of all mercies and the God of all comfort. And so the only one that can bring comfort in this situation is not so much me and my ability to speak into people, it's God and his grace ministering to these families, because we don't know what to say. I mean, it's hard to know what to say. And really what happens after it's over, in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, the people that are still alive are going to go on with their lives. Their lives are going to continue. And so it's God's presence in their life and ministering to them and speaking to them that I think is most important. You just point them to Jesus and you point them to the Father and you say, he is the God of all comfort and he can comfort you in this in ways that we cannot. And so that would be my advice, I think.
I feel comforted just hearing that. That's awesome. That's really awesome.
Right.
So as we wrap up, thank you for that. As we wrap up, we ask all of our guests this final question. And we are curious, what is saving your life right now?
Well, ultimately, I think Jesus is the only one who saves my life. My faith in him, and of course the church, and just having a great passion for One Harbor Church and the people of the church and just ministering to them. That's a great passion of mine. I would say my family, my wife and my 4 daughters. I've been blessed with 4, not beautiful girls, and they're good girls. They love their dad, and they're loyal to me, and so that kind of floats my boat. And I guess my job would be third in line, and that's saying a lot because I love my job, and I still love it. I've been doing it a long time, but I still love to do it. And so for me to say that that God and my family are above my job is saying a lot, because I love it a lot. So I would say those 3, the Lord and his love for me, and the church, and then of course my family and my work.
That's good.
That's awesome.
Thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we, we'll just continue to, keep our community in our thoughts and prayers, and take this advice that you've shared with us, and, take it to heart. So thank you so much for sharing with us. And if you guys see Andrew out and about around town, get his autograph. That's all I got to say. Thanks, Andrew. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Andrew. Bye.
Bye-bye.